Right. Good morning once again. It's not fair to punish those who are punctual by keeping them waiting. So we'll and then hope that people will join us as we go along. It's a bit strange that the turnout is so low. Let me welcome James Amuta, who is joining us today as our guest, and to say thank you very much for agreeing to come and converse with us this morning. And I'm sure James does not need much of an introduction to people. He's well known, but we'll nevertheless read out the profile. James Amuta is a filmmaker, writer, and cinematographer. He served as a producer for the Netflix original film Oloture and the next Netflix film Election Oloba, The King's Horseman, based on Wole Soyinka's play. He also wrote and produced the award-winning film Collision Course, which was selected as a closing film of the Africa International Film Festival, AFRIF, in 2021. This earned him an Africa Movie Academy Award for achievement in screenplay in the same year and Best Movie West Africa at the Africa Magic Viewers' Choice Awards in 2022. His recent work, Black Harvest, premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival in 2023, where it received a nomination for Best Picture, Drama. It also screened at the recently concluded AFRIF, with a character in the film winning Best Performance in a Feature. His documentary film, Nightfall in Lagos, received the Best Documentary by an African Award at the Toronto International Nollywood Film Festival in 2019 and was nominated for Best Documentary at the AMVCA in 2018. Beyond filmmaking, Amuta has worked as a writer and publicist for various television programs, including Dragon's Den, Are You Smarter Than a 10-Year-Old, 100% Naija on Channel O, Coco Mansion, and The Apprentice Africa. He's also the author of Enigma, Beyond the Poet, a collection of 84 poems published in 2007, which received critical acclaim and featured in international poetry anthologies and publications in the United States of America and the United Kingdom. Describing himself as a guerrilla filmmaker, Amuta climbed almost 20,000 feet to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro to produce, direct, and photograph a documentary to help draw attention to the plight of internally displaced persons, IDPs, especially women and children, displaced by the activities of Boko Haram in Nigeria. Amuta has undertaken various documentary projects, including Project Hope and Comfort for Cross River State Government, Enterprise Challenge 100, commemorating the centennial anniversary of IBM, Ofala, and European Brands Motor Show for Porsche Center, Lagos, and Stallion Motors. James Amuta is recognized as a storyteller and adventurer, utilizing film as a medium to address subjects and societal issues within the industry. A very rich profile indeed. So, James, you are most welcome once more. Now, to our guests, our participants, welcome. We will take questions as we go along, so please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box. Like you know, this is an activity of the Nollywood Studies Centre of the School of Media and Communications, Pan Atlantic University. So welcome, everyone. So James, once again, welcome. Let's set the ball rolling here.
So first of all, that profile, yes. That was I've never quite heard it read like that before. Yeah, but just a clarification. What was it? The Black Harvest was nominated at the Toronto International Nollywood Film Festival. It did premiere as a market screening at the Toronto International Film Festival. So it had two outings in Toronto in September. And yes, we're quite proud of that. And of course, the free.
Great. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you. But well, let's set the ball rolling.
Profile was, I don't know where I want a copy of that profile.
We'll send it to you. It's on net. It's online there. You see, everything about you is online these days.
Wow. Okay. It was almost as if I couldn't recognize the person I was hearing about. It's been a long time.
It has. So, yes, it's a very busy long time indeed. So maybe even though we've read the profile, let's still hear from you about yourself. How did you really get into this world of filmmaking?
See, I've always wanted to tell stories. I don't want to share sub stories here, but I think it was I was very young. I lost my mom when I was very young. I think I was
Okay.
6 or 7 then. I lost my mom,
Wow.
and then you know how it is when you're grieving, and I
Mm.
had imaginary friends. Everybody, every child would have
Yeah.
imaginary friends to fill that void. And then I started writing about my experiences with this imaginary friend, and then my struggles. I think my earliest writings could be likened to that of the caveman. I started writing on walls. I got a whooping for writing on walls, but that was how it started. I wanted to tell stories. I found that I could only comfort myself through stories, be it poetry, prose, anything. I wanted to write anything. And then my foray into film, we had this massive trunk boxes filled with VHS tapes, right?
Mm.
So I was
Right.
watching everything, and I was like, this is incredible, building this world as I've visualized it in my head. When you're writing, you visualize the world, but bringing it on screen. So I took an interest in photography quite early, though not
Right.
professionally. We used to go with all those old Kodak
Hmm.
cameras, the film, and then go photograph stuff in the cave and all that. And that was how it started. Then I started writing plays. I think my earliest, if I can think back to 1996, I think I was 15 years
Wow.
old then, in
Wow.
at the Dennis Memorial Grammar School, DMGS, my secondary school then. I remember. I think, what was that play called? Yeah, I think that was the first time I actually wrote something that was performed on stage. And it was like a first for students to actually write a stage play that
Right.
could be performed in front of students and teachers. And it was a morale booster. But by I think by 2000, I was 19 then. I think second year in college, I did my first. I tried to commercialize, you know, this act of storytelling. So I took a play to secondary schools. To I think we charged them 20 naira then or something. It was just so I'd always wanted to create this world, present it to people, and as I was doing that, I was also writing poetry. And yeah, but then film, I would say, started the journey into film started, I think, to proper started in
Mm.
2007, 2008 with The Apprentice Africa. So I
Okay.
was publicist for the show. So and then I used to write what you call the Insider's Journal on the website,
Hmm.
and I'll go in, find these very clever stories and then publish there and all that, and then I'll go to the post production, to the editor room, sit down with the editors, and then I'm seeing the process of how this, all that I've been shot for that week, how everything comes together, and and that was it. That was it. That was it. I started, yeah, yeah. Well, that may not be true. I shot a few things with the high eight camera in a cave. There's this cave I love so much, the Obunike cave.
Okay.
Beautiful cave.
Yes.
Beautiful cave, so I think I got my first merit badge as a Boy Scout in that cave from my expedition to that cave or something. So I fell in love with the cave, and I'd always wanted to capture moments. So it was photography then it went on to a high eight camera, to VHS. I was shooting with anything I could find, and that's it. Yeah, that's it. Well, I started early. I was playing. I wasn't really like I just wanted to express myself. It wasn't as if I had this grand plan to become Martin Scorsese or something, but just wanted to express myself, and I started early. I just started doing it. Well, except for when I started charging money from secondary school students to stage plays then. But that's it. I'd always been a guerrilla filmmaker. I'd always had the mindset of an independent filmmaker. Create the opportunities yourself. Yeah. I always envy students. I'm like, if you're a student and you want to make films or you want to tell stories, you have a captive audience already. You have your classmates, you have the entire university at your disposal. you know so yeah, that's actually how I started.
Let me take you up on what you just said now. Guerrilla filmmaker is what you call yourself, or you called yourself rather, the moment ago. What does that mean, really, when you say guerrilla filmmaker?
Okay, I've been asked this question a lot of times, and I'm like, it's simple. When you look at the best analogy I can come up with is when you look at conventional warfare, right? Soldiers, everybody, everything, you have to do things a certain way. But being a guerrilla filmmaker, you are basically adopting the tactics of guerrilla soldier, guerrilla warfare, right? So it's basically about, you have to you have to gather all the necessary skills you need to actually make this picture. You don't have to wait until you have like a conventional crew, have have everything in place. You improvise. You're basically improvising. You're thinking outside the box, and then doing that. So why I usually refer to myself as a guerrilla filmmaker is because don't forget that I have the rare privilege of being both a documentary filmmaker and working
Right.
on feature films. I'm working in different capacities as a producer, director, cinematographer, and writer. So when you're making a documentary, it's a different ball game. you know it's
Yes.
you're not in control. So basically they say God directs the documentary. You're just, so things are happening and you're just capturing the moment and then tweaking to the best of your ability to make it into the story you want. In fact, your story comes to life in post-production
Right.
when you're doing a documentary. Now you don't know if it's going to rain, you don't know. So when that happens, you have to find a way to see, will this enhance my story or will this take away from it? What can I do? Oh, I have to move here, I have to do this. So that's how it is. So with guerrilla filmmaking, it's like, I know I need a helicopter to do this, but I don't have a helicopter. I don't also have a drone. So what do I do? Can I look for a smaller camera? Get some helium, put blow some helium into a balloon and set this thing off, and then get that shot. Do I need to? We don't have a crane. Oh, so you know what? Can I climb the tree and then film this? You're getting the same thing. There's this interesting Instagram account, Shitty Rigs. It's hilarious. So you see filmmakers, the gear, how they improvise gear, how they, people using wheelchairs as track and dolly, people using shopping carts and all that. So those are the principles of guerrilla filmmaking. So you just have to go out there and basically improvise, and yeah, you just do it. Nike, do it.
In order to do that, it seems to me that one must already have a good substrate of knowledge. Because for you to improvise, you must already know something. So for somebody who is now trying to get into this space and says, okay, good, I don't have the money, I don't have the funds, but let me at least acquire the knowledge. What will be the path? What was your path, really, in growing the knowledge of the technicalities and all of that?
Okay, so very good question. So the thing is, you don't need money to acquire knowledge. It's just that some of us are in a hurry to manifest, to blow, as they say. But if you're really, really hungry for knowledge, there's YouTube. There are so many platforms on Twitter, Instagram, on the web, where you can learn a lot of stuff. And then when you volunteer on sets and stuff, and I know you'd say, a lot of people say, but it's not easy. They don't allow us access and stuff like that. But it's about value. How much value have you put into yourself? Remember when I said I started very early? I remember when I was like 13, 14, 92, 93, I'd written something on a 40 leaves notebook, and I took to some publishers. In fact, the guys that published Chinua Achebe's books. And I went there, I said, I've written a novel. I want you to publish it. And they laughed at me. Like, but you can imagine, but I was 12, 13. Like, what shame does a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old have? I'm like, I've written a novel. If you like, laugh. After they laughed, they saw that I wasn't kidding. I was serious. I'm like, I want you to publish this. So then I had to, okay, calm down, young man. Let's break it down for you. This is not how it's done. These are the things you need to do for it to be a novel, this, that. So what happened next? I'd gained some knowledge. I've read, oh, okay, there's something you call paragraphing. I know, oh, okay. So that is all. Oh, this is it. Oh, this is, okay. I've learned. All right. The next year, I'm back with even 80 leaves full scalp sheet. Now it's bigger, it's longer. I'm like, I'm back again. But this time I'm going to Iweka Road, 51 Iweka Road. I'm like, I've written a movie. I want you to buy it. And I'm just 13, 14. And they laughed at me again. But I'm like, you read it first and stuff. And, this is not how it works. The structure, the formatting, this is not this. I'm like, okay, but there's a story that take 5 naira, go away. Whether you like it or not, that was the first screenplay I sold. In my mind, I'm like, this is the first screenplay I've sold. It was some money. 5 naira was good money. I went home. Now I have this knowledge. Okay, now I can only improve. So I've added value to myself. So now I understand a bit. They've told me this, and I've done so. Back then it was difficult. There was no internet. So you have to go to post offices look for old books and all that. Then you have to write letters to the production companies. And BB was my favorite. Oh, those guys, they must have been so frustrated with me. When they were doing BBC African performance, was contributing every day. I'm like, so, but you can't help but now say, okay, this guy, we can't get rid of him. Let's guide him. So you start getting magazines, you start getting things, you start learning. Now, when you go to somebody to volunteer, you have like a track record that you've manufactured yourself. Now I know this person's okay. This one has something. Or you come. So that's basically it. So the journey, you can start from being, remember I started from writing. Then you observe. Then you see, then first of all, observe if you have the eye. If you have the eye to tell visual stories. Once the people around you see that you have the eye, they'll be the ones to encourage you. Okay, we see you have the eye. Like when I was working on The Apprentice, the editors and stuff, we're like, you have the eye. So you understand, why don't you try being this and stuff? And then anytime I encounter a roadblock, I go back, I say, come on, I don't know this thing, no. I'm going to learn it. Till now, I'm still learning. I'm learning every day. Right now I'm in the phase of learning the business side of film, distribution, international distribution, co-productions, all these ones, how it works. But you always have to come with something. And say, okay, all right, proceed. So that's it. You can start. Just start. Now people have phones, mobile phones that can film, that can shoot 4K. What are you waiting for? We used to go look for VHS cameras, IH cameras and stuff. Now you have a camera in your pocket. Tell a story. You can shoot and edit everything on that phone. You know, it mustn't be Avengers Endgame, mustn't have Avengers Endgame production values and all that. But at least you've been able to tell a story. If you present it to anybody that understands storytelling, the person will understand there's substance here, there's something here that I can help nurture and grow. This person can add value, because no matter how little you think you know, there must be something you're extremely good at that you can offer that environment that they can't offer themselves.
Yes.
You know, when I started producing um these big blockbuster films, it was based on my knowledge of the streets and how they knew, okay, James goes the extra mile. James understands the street. James understands real people. James can penetrate anywhere. James can do this. I didn't know about, producing all those big budget films. What do I know about managing 100+ million or something like that? But I've made tiny films, and I've gone to certain places. So now they need somebody who can navigate that world. So they come to the guy who has demonstrated that with little he could do something. And then now I'm in that environment. Now I'm learning on the job. I'm like, okay, this is how it works. Oh, all right, very good, very good. That's it. It's just the hunger. You know, you have to have small madness there, and then it's not comfortable. It's very uncomfortable. You know, there are loads of sacrifices you have to make. It's crazy, but you have to be hungry. You have to tell yourself, if I don't do this, this is the air that I breathe. First of all, you must be willing to don't even think about coming to make films if you're not like, if you think, oh, I'm going to depend on it for my next meal. You know, if you're not obsessed, that if the act of making that film isn't enough for you as a meal, doesn't fill your belly, fill your head, fill you with a sense of satisfaction, then don't even try it. Because I've seen a lot of young people go, oh, they have these grandiose ideas, because nobody ever tells us the truth about how it is outside of the red carpet, the award shows, and the glitz and the glamour. Nobody tells you about the horror, the lonely moments, the terrifying anxiety, the 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 gatekeepers, the roadblocks, everything. Nobody tells you that. Everybody's yeah, and you think, oh, I just come. No, even in Hollywood, it's the same thing. You have to give to get. Yeah, so many people had to create their own careers. Sylvester Stallone, James Cameron. These are people that went, Robert Rodriguez. These are people that literally had to create their own careers. Nobody's going to give you anything in Nollywood, in the film industry. You basically have to take it. You have to create it yourself and then make it. So that's it. It's not the best people that are out there that make it. It's not about being the best. It's about being consistent, being persistent, being, like, I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm ready to make my mistakes. I'm ready to learn from them. I'm not going to cower when I'm bullied. I'm not going to cower when I make a mistake. I'm just going to learn from it and move on. That's it. And you're ready.
From what you say, it sounds like one really needs to be, what's the word? One really needs to be strong internally. Otherwise it's going to be very easy to drop out.
Oh, yes.
Have there been moments when you have considered dropping out?
Hey, every day. Every day, I'm telling you. I'm telling you. And the higher you climb, you're like, no, I can't take this anymore. Which has led me to one thing. Filmmakers say, oh, it's access to financing we want funding. But be very careful who you take money from. where your money comes from to make that film, you have to be very careful, because, and then it takes a village to make a film. And then you're putting a team together. You have to make sure that they also share your vision. Some people are in film for the wrong reasons. Some people funding films now, some people making films now, to them is a tea party thing. Oh, I just want to brag, look cool in front of my friends and be like, oh yeah, I made that film and stuff like that. They're in it for the wrong reasons. So you're in it for your own reasons, and then you take money from or you collaborate with somebody who is in it for the wrong reasons. They just want to make this film and do a lavish premiere, people wear clothes, look cool, and that's it. But you want to make a film that will start the conversation, change the world, do this one, da da da. And they're like, well, we don't care about that. We've just made the film. Or you make a film with somebody who's, like what's happening now, capitalists, venture capitalists are coming in, and for them it's just profit. No, film is no longer intellectual property, it's a product. It's like, oh, I buy this Red Bull, 1,000 naira, I sell it 1,500, it's done. So, but you're like, no, but there are processes. Oh, I want to take it to this festival, you can do that. No, we don't care about that. We don't care about this. We don't, it's just, the nightmare. It's crazy. So it at every point you get to, you find out that you have new battles to fight. And then it's lonely. When you're writing, for instance, it's a solitary affair. It's very lonely. If you can handle that loneliness, if you can handle that madness, people are going to think you're bonkers because you're talking to yourself, you're keeping to yourself. Do you understand? Then when you're directing, I always say, see, if you're a director, pray to God. The two best friends you need time, and you need a wonderful producer that understands your vision, that can implement it. God has blessed you. Telling you. Because no matter how good you are as a director, without a good producer by your side, you can't make a good film. Forget it. You can't make a good film. It's impossible. Because how are you going to do it? You don't have time. You don't have a good producer. So you just, okay, your ideas remain ideas. They can never manifest. So you see, that also is a challenge there. Now imagine you're now in your feelings every time, and then you come, oh, but the set isn't right. This is not what we discussed. I'm not going to shoot. You're not going to shoot. 3 days, you're not able to shoot anything. The film is not coming out. You're of course, you'll be blackballed and stuff. So it's a lot. So you have to also learn to be emotionally intelligent, to understand that, okay, I'm not going to throw tantrums like a little baby. I'm just going to find a way to improvise. So that's why I say knowledge is very powerful. Educate yourself. Understand almost everything there is to understand about film. So that when you find yourself in certain situations, all you need to just do is take a breath. You take a breather for 3 minutes and then picture, okay, let's do it this way. That's the only way it's gonna work, because you have to also understand that, everywhere, doing business, doing anything in Nigeria is exceptionally difficult, because first of all, the people that you interact with are the first, things that are going to disappoint you, catastrophically, because people might come with very impressive resumes. Oh, I've done this, I have this and stuff. But there's a difference between competence and performance.
Right.
Somebody might look good on paper, but getting the job done, wahala. And a lot of foreign producers, foreign production companies come to Nigeria, and they run into the same very huge problem that, Nigeria works differently. I'm telling you.
It does. It
Very
does.
differently, you know. So you have to understand all those things and find the way to navigate all those things. So your team, very important, you know. And who do you trust? Who can you? It's crazy. It's crazy. So every day you see, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, right? That's 19,000, almost 20,000 feet above sea level, right? 7 days in the wilderness. Took 6 days to get to the top. You know, it was excruciating. Minus 25 degrees Celsius. That was the temperature on the summit when I summited. But that pain, eh? In fact, when you're on the mountain, you know, there's very little oxygen and all that, and it's very cold. You're climbing freehand, and it's like every day you're asking yourself, who sent me come this thing? What am I even doing? Like, you know, okay, you know what? Just one more day, I'll turn back. Let me get to the base camp. I'm not setting out again. The next day you get there, then you sleep, you wake up, you're like, it looks beautiful. Now, you know what? Let's do one more day. You keep psyching yourself. And before you know it, you're at the summit. You've completed the trek, you know. But no matter how excruciating that journey was, making a film in Nigeria, nobody will tell you this one is sometimes more difficult than climbing Kilimanjaro, I'm telling you. You have to keep psyching yourself every minute. Okay, let's go, let's go. You know, it starts from your EPs, from your financiers. You know, people talk a good game. Oh yes, no problem. We love the story. We'll back you. This, that. Oh, okay, fine, good. All right, sign your contract. Oh, okay. You've done your schedule. You've called all the actors. You've called your team. All right, where's the money? Oh, okay. So take 20% first. Just start. In the middle of it, you find yourself stuck, and then you're like, you pull through, you manage, you do whatever you need to do, pull through, and then another cycle starts. It's crazy. You know, I hear about what have I not heard? What have I not seen? It's crazy, but it's beautiful at the same time. If you're genuinely in love with what you know, with the art of visual storytelling, you have to love it so that you can it's like being in a toxic relationship. You know, you're married to this person that you know is bad for your health, but this person is also the best thing to have ever happened to you. So every day it's bass, but you guys are it's toxic, it's madness. So if you're not obsessed and totally in love with doing this thing, this is all you know. Don't try it though. I'm telling you, don't try it. You know, I've had them advise a few people, somebody, so, and some people think that film, or because I make TV commercials or I shoot music videos or I do this, I can make a film. They think it's the same thing. Big mistake. That's major mistake you make in your life, is thinking that, oh, it's like making a TV commercial and this. Some people have called me, oh, James, want you to produce this, do this. I'm like, hold on first. See, I want you to work on this. I'm like, hold on. Is this your first feature film? Simple question. You know, yes. If you say yes, then I sit you down and say, okay, fine. These are the things that must happen. So we must expect them, anticipate them, and try to fix them before they happen. That's because I'm also a fixer, right? So I'm not reactionary. I try to fix the problems before they become problems. But you know, Nigerian mentality, we prefer to fix the problem after it has become a problem, like almost when it's unfixable. But I don't buy into that ideology. I'm able to see this will become a problem. So let's fix it now before it becomes a problem. So on my sets, everything usually runs smoothly. least 90% of the time. Smooth, no problem. Because I envisage whatever is going to go wrong. Now, for a first-time filmmaker, trust me, everything that can go wrong will go wrong. But because you're like, oh no, it's, on music video sets, it's like this, on commercials, it's different ball game. Oh. You're just going to be there for 2 days, 3 days max. So I always tell them, okay, let's line these things up. And then most times, there's some of them are arrogant and say, oh no, it's not our first rodeo, we've been doing that. I'm like, okay, sorry, no problem, go ahead. But I'm not going to be there. Just I can't make a fool of myself. Just have fun. And then at the end of the day, they come back. James, so this one happened. I said, but I told you from the beginning, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's like saying you're a child, your milk teeth will not fall out. It will fall out. It must. It's your first film. There are things that must happen because, so the people that have experience, we made those mistakes and we learn from it. So now we're trying to help you, stop it from prevent it from happening to you. So, well, it's madness. I'm telling you. And then making an independent film is different from making a studio film. Making an independent project is different from making a commission project. You have to understand these dynamics. But the only thing that will keep you sailing is you totally love what you're obsessed.
Right.
Passion is not enough. Obsession has to be the word. Because so many things will test you and try to break you. But if you're obsessed, like what's that character in The Dark Knight, the Joker? That's it. That's how you are. That's a filmmaker. He doesn't care about money. He just wants to watch the world burn. That's it. That's a filmmaker in a nutshell. Remember that line in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
People just don't. It doesn't make sense. Some people just don't care about money. They just want to see the world burn. That's it. That's you. Okay. Sorry.
No. I was just thinking while you were talking that you don't learn this in school.
No.
Those who undergo a training or at least some education in school, perhaps we need to put place in course how to make films in Nigeria and all the challenges.
Politics. It's called production politics. It was the first thing I learned, right? Production politics. They don't teach it in film school and stuff. But lucky for me, it was the first thing I learned. I'm like, whoa, but this is so important. How come nobody knows about it? How come they don't teach it? Oh, production politics is all encompassing. It's all encompassing. But I learned it very early, right? Because now you have to also remember that no matter how brilliant you are as a filmmaker, your personality comes into play. Some people just want to hire you so you can kiss their backside all the time. They just want to hire you to be a yes man, right? But you have to understand that different things happen. Like you can't expect to go to make a Marvel movie and then you want to bring your auteur style to it. No, bros, calm down. No. This is Marvel. We've been doing this for over 20 years. We have a formula. Just stick to it. A 5-year-old can direct this film, but we just need a director to answer director. So you're not doing any work. Just follow the template. So at that point, you should know when to. Oh yes, okay. So even if you want to infuse your own style, you have to sell it to them like it's their own style. So it's like, oh, no. You have to show inception. You have to inception that whole thing. You have to plant the idea in their head and let them present the idea to you like it's their idea. That's the only way it's going to work. Because your idea, no way. So you have to understand how to navigate such politics. Now, this is what happens with studios. Because they have the money and they believe we know film, we know how to make film. I have the money, I know everything about film. So you have to find a way to navigate that. But if you put on your creative hat and you're like, you become antagonistic, there's always conflict.
Yeah.
You've heard this phrase, creative differences. What do you think it is?
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty wireless. That's from casting to editing choices to distribution strategy to everything. It's crazy. Do you understand? So you must understand the politics. You must understand it. But a lot of people are not equipped on how to handle the politics, and they run into problems. No matter how old you are, me, self, I run into problems with the politics all the time. You know, because it's there, it's all around you. You have to, you know, sometimes I'm not, don't worry. Thank you so much. I can't play this politics now. I'm too old for this. Just, I'm fine. You know, you have to learn when to say no.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
yeah.
Let me take you up on something you said, because you said if someone doesn't understand your vision, doesn't share your vision, then okay, it's best not to go in that direction. Now, Jonathan Haynes has described Nollywood as a chronicler of society. And some of your work, such as Collision Course, Oloture, Nightfall in Lagos, Black Harvest, deal with real cogent societal issues. With reference to Collision Course, for instance, you said, or you're quoted as saying that it reflects a reality that happened to you. Now, does this focus on social issues reflect what one could say is your vision as a filmmaker, or one of the goals you have as a filmmaker? Is there something you're hoping to achieve through your films?
Oh yes, yes. First of all, I have this philosophy. I'm like, write what you know, right? You know, but just so it's not as much as the story, but the storytelling. Collision course is something that happens every day. So you know, it was actually based on something that happened to me. You know, one night, and I had this encounter. I'm like, but this happens every day. How am I, you know? But I need to tell it in a clever way to make it, to give it that oomph. You know, so yes, I'm drawn to socially conscious subjects, right? Um, but at the same time, it's not like it's my vision or my style, but somehow my signature seems to be around stories like this. But
Mhm.
that's, you know, I also did something on dyslexia, genius in disguise.
Yes.
So I like
Yes.
things that people can relate to and stuff. But at the same time, I just want to go crazy. Like Black Harvest is not your typical um,
Mhm.
social messaging film. No, it's not even a
Right.
social. You know, it's not. It's none of that. It's it's um it's a presentation of a social issue, but we've wrapped it in this very violent. We've packaged it very violently to shock you, to get you talking. Hate it or love it, it's gonna get a reaction from you. So it's like, you know, the film basically wants you to feel um to go home thinking about, when after seeing this film, you have a reaction to the film. And we want that same
Mhm.
reaction you have to the film to be your reaction to the subject matter.
Reality. Yes.
Stuff like that. So yeah, you know, society is your canvas. Every storyteller, you have to draw inspiration from things around you and stuff. But that does not mean that I'm not going to. I'm working on something magical realism. You know, I'm obsessed with stuff like that. You know, but at the same time, you can still find traces of it to what we um as a society, what some of the practices we have here as a society, as a culture, and things like that. You know, so yeah, well, I'm guilty. It could be a style, but most times it's unconscious. It's just me just trying to tell the story. But those are the nuances that define you as a writer, you as a director, you as a storyteller. You know, if you're sincere, if you pour bits of yourself into your work, It's easily identifiable. People can look at this work and be like, oh yeah, this is this person, this is the style. There are nuances that you bring to it unapologetically to your stories. So yeah, I think that could be, I don't know if it's studied later.
Okay.
I don't have
Great.
such
Now
ambition.
just great. Now just a word to our audience. Please remember you can drop your questions in the chat box and we'll take them from there. Now, still talking about stories, and then this is the word you've used, nuances. There's a lot of talk these days about telling authentic African stories to counter the negative narratives that abound. But while some people think that such stories, that to tell the authentic African stories means that one should focus only on the positives, others say, no, we need to tell a more nuanced story. Talk about the positives, but don't be reticent about talking about or throwing in the whats at all. What for you does telling the authentic Nigerian story mean?
You want to put me in trouble. You want to put me in trouble.
No.
So, so see, you know, I'm not trying to cause controversy or anything, but I'm like, okay, I'm Nigerian, right? So if something happens to me in Nigeria and I want to tell this story, will that be considered an authentic Nigerian story? You know, in fact, let's look at it this way. When people say tell authentic Nigerian stories, tell authentic African stories, I'm telling you, we are still going back to the tenets of neocolonialization. Because when they say tell authentic Nigerian stories, what they're telling you basically is, you know, those films that they call epic, in quotes,
Yeah.
you know, period pieces with some culture in it, throwing some masquerades and all that. That's the authentic Nigerian story, you know, for a lot of people. So they think for it to be authentic, it has to be set in a traditional Nigerian village or show Nigerian culture or have sets, you know, that's it, right? But then you ask yourself, is the story of Anini, the Santana arm robber, the guy that
Yeah.
used to rob, those terrorize the Lagos Benin
Mhm.
Expressway, those days. You know, is the story authentic Nigerian story? Is Hush Puppy's story an authentic Nigerian story? Is the
Mhm.
story of Sani Abacha and how he has successfully built this empire that keeps giving Nigeria money every 2 years. Come and take $200 billion. Come and take $200 million. We found Abacha loot. Is that an authentic Nigerian story? You know, so but it's happening in Nigeria. Then look at it. 1 in 10, 1 in 10 black person in the world. One out of every 10 black person in the world is a Nigerian. So can an authentic Nigerian story be found in Russia, be found in Tanzania, be found in China? Go to some places in China, they speak Igbo there in the market.
Mhm.
Why have they started speaking Igbo in those provinces in China? Because predominantly the traders that come here to buy goods are Igbo people. And they've discovered that, okay, just human psychology. If I'm able to interact with somebody in their native language, it eliminates certain barriers. And we cultivate this friendship, this trust. So now that's happening. If you want to go into the genesis of how did that start, you know, why are they speaking Igbo in China? You know, is that an authentic Nigerian story? You know, so we're very confused when we say this authentic Nigerian story. You know, we're trying to, I think the gatekeepers have fed this into our head. Oh, authentic Nigerian stories. Oh no, has to be go to the period pieces. You know, if they're not wearing loincloths and carrying spears and masquerades dancing, it's not authentic Nigerian story. and they think it's positive. For some, like, can you remember the controversy of The Godfather in the 70s when it was initially released? When it was released, um, when people thought that the mafia it was gonna demarket Sicily and Italy in general.
Yeah.
Well, what happened? The mafia looked at the film and responded that this is an authentic depiction. And what happened? The film boosted tourism to Sicily. Everybody wanted to go to Sicily. But this film said that you come to Sicily, this is where the mafia, this is the headquarters, this is where they kill people. And people want to go. What's wrong with people? Look at the film like Borat. In fact, they banned Sacha Baron Cohen from Kazakhstan when he made the film Borat. And then no, it was very derogatory to this. But all of a sudden, people started looking at, where is this Kazakhstan? We've never heard of it. If it's anything like it was portrayed in this film, it's hilarious. We want to say it. It boosted tourism. But in their mind, this was very negative story. So of course, it can't be an authentic Kazakhstan story. Look at Castaway, Tom Hanks. What was it? Was it UPS or FedEx? Right? It was FedEx. FedEx, yes. That was they were terrified that film was gonna tank their value. How can you say that a delivery company plane crashed and stuff? But in hindsight, they looked at it and said, you know what? We'll spin it. And I think their CEO was in the last scene where they welcomed him back. I think that was the actual CEO of FedEx or the delivery company that was in that scene. And now what they did was they did a spin-off Italian commercial at the end after the film was released, where you remember there were packages that the Tom Hanks character did not open. He preserved them. So in this commercial, the film followed suit. You have this delivery guy now delivering those packages to the recipient after all these years. And then, thank you. Oh, thank you. Wow. We said, but out of curiosity, I want to know what's inside this package, because I had it with me all this. So opened it, satellite phone, flare, this, everything that this guy needed to have actually escaped that island or survived that island or make communication. It was there. So what did it say? What it meant? What did that spin-off mean? What did that spin mean? That, see, this FedEx values your package more than the employee's life self. That for the FedEx man, your package is more important than my food. Do you understand? And immediately it affected your stock prices. So a lot of times you think that, that audiences are stupid. Like, I'm like, I don't understand. So no, it's a negative story. It's this, that, which I don't understand. It's crazy. So I think, but the beauty of it is when you look at it, look very well. You see the hand under that skirt commanding this narrative. You go and do Vox Pop in London, in Toronto, in New York, and you find and ask people, what do you think of Africa? When you think of Africa, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Everybody's going to be telling you about the safari. Oh, tigers, lions. Oh, they're naked. They have dances. Like you show them Marina or Victoria Island or Banana Island. It's never Lagos. It's got to be. They would never associate it with Lagos. But you show them Yankari Game Reserve, the Serengeti, and so that's Africa. Oh, because there's lion, tiger, naked people, hunger, disease. That's it. Did you understand? So they can easily identify with masquerades and dances and stuff like that. That's why Afrobeats is big. So they tell you they want their audiences to identify, to start identifying with Africa, with the Africa that they've idealized. So that's why they want you to put in this culture. In fact, you won't be surprised when they tell you put in masquerade, put in masquerade. So, but it's the story of Fanini. He can be robbing the car when the masquerades are moving. Yeah, put it like. But that's it. You have to make it work. That's what they want, and you give it to them. But is that our authentic Nigerian story? We have to be careful when we say this authentic Nigerian story. Chinua Achebe, Elechi Amadi, Amos Tutuola, all these writers have contributed copiously to African literature. They went global, so everybody knows. You know, I think one of my best works is Amos Tutuola's "The Palm Wine Drinker," right? Incredible work, right? So yeah, but it's fantasy, it's magical realism. It's different. It's that any different from, it's very different from Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart and stuff. But when you look at it, it's so well. Let's just be very careful. I think when we say these authentic Nigerian stories, like there are other Nigerian stories that are not authentic.
Yeah.
You know. So, but anyway, yeah, semantics. Everybody, you know. But what I would say in that regard is, if you want to tell a story, I think storytelling is universal, right? One of the reasons why Chinua Achebe, Amos Tutuola, Wole Soyinka, and all the rest of them, why they were successful was that they were able to tell stories that people from anywhere in the world could identify with. It resonated. I remember reading the Richard Wright's work. Was it The Black Boy or something? Kamaralai was the African child, the Black Boy,
Yes.
Richard Wright. When I studied Afro-Caribbean literature and stuff, then you find that despite the fact that this is a Caribbean writer, like we have these similarities. You could understand, you could identify with it. Look at the City of God, the Brazilian film. Look at is it a Beautiful Life, the Italian film.
Yes.
There are films that do you understand what I'm saying? So I think, well, just make a film that when you're telling the story, tell the story so that it's relevant to anybody anywhere in the world. They can find the humanities. Is the reason why storytelling falls under the humanities. It's the exploration of the human condition, human experiences, human interaction. So yeah, once you tell a story that embodies this, anywhere anybody interacts, anywhere anybody has a human soul, they can relate with what you're talking about without any pretensions. Don't have to don't have to shoot it in Zuma Rock or something before. It mustn't be Queen Amina's story, or it mustn't. It could be anything. Queen Amina's story, beautiful, and all that. Yeah, we need more of those stories. But then we can fictionalize these stories. There's so many things we can do with these stories. We've not explored up to 1% of our treasure trove of stories. So I think that's what people actually mean when they say, "Oh, tell authentic Nigerian stories." So we'll go into history, to the archives, and tell the stories. Okay, fine. But while you're going into the archives, into history to try to tell the stories, thousands of stories are unfolding in front of us every day. The tech guy, this a lot. There's plenty. Yeah.
Okay. Great. I see you are wearing a T-shirt, which is on your latest project, When the Monsters Come Out. Now, this is, well, from all one has read, is a different kind of story, really, from some of the stuff you've done before. Now, this is a collaborative effort between the film industries of Nigeria and Trinidad and Tobago. Can you tell us how this came about, and what do you see as the future for such collaborations between Nigeria and other countries?
Well, see, I think it's the future, right? Because remember I said 1 in 10, 1 out of every 10 black person in the world is Nigerian. We have the population here, right? There's a global appetite for Nigerian stories, for Nigerian films, and we mustn't necessarily confine ourselves here in Nigeria when it comes. Okay, the biggest film market in the world is China. Yeah,
Right.
that's the
Right.
biggest market. Hollywood is cutting that market so vehemently, but the tensions between China and America will always prevent them. But China loves Africa, right? Become their new partners and stuff. So there's a gateway there, and we do business and all that. So I'm like, this is a huge market. By the time we start looking at international co-productions, we start looking at, so it's no longer about, oh, okay, I'm making a film here in Nigeria and taking over there. Like, I'm crossing the two industries. Like, I want to tell the story of this Nigerian trader that inspired Chinese men to start speaking Igbo. And then how did it become a thing that now in schools that taught that, and why? Who started this? Then I go into this examination, and then so now you have, of course, you're going to have Chinese characters and Nigerian characters played by Nigerian actors and Chinese actors. You're going to have players on the production team from two of the countries. So what have you done? You have a market here in China. You have a market here in Nigeria. That's what you would think. But there's a downside to that too. But it's very political. I'm not going to go into it right now because, yeah, the gatekeepers have a special interest on Nigerian stories that are made here in Nigeria. But that shouldn't, anyway, it's very political. So, right now, but the thing is, when I'm thinking about international co-productions, I'm thinking about giving us a lot more physical presence in these territories where we've only had online presence. They consume our films in Barbados, Trinidad, Mexico, America, the UK, Russia, Iran, Saudi. They consume our films digitally there, right? But so that shows that they're exposed to our content. Okay. And when you look at it, some of these countries have a very robust theatrical distribution structure. Here in Nigeria, we have our theatrical distribution. It's dancing now, but we're trying, right? But that does not mean that if we find an opportunity, we have about 65 locations, cinema locations across the country in Nigeria. Now, that doesn't mean that if we find a country that can give us 500 cinema locations and collaborate with them, you see what this does for the independent filmmaker? It opens up avenues for you to actually generate more revenue. And then physically present, you begin to impact more on the culture. You begin to export yourself. Look at what's happening with Afrobeat. People were listening to the songs from all over the world, playing radio. I was in Paris. This Afrobeat was playing in the Uber for almost an hour. I thought it was MP3 or something playing, but it was the radio in Paris. Okay. Now, this has happened. But what has really given Afrobeats its standing is because these acts are now able to go over there and sell out concerts.
Right.
It's a different ballgame from selling streams, getting clicks, and actually selling concerts, physical spaces. That's the same thing with selling this filling up theaters with people who have come to see a Nigerian film. But those people in those territories, they also want to be a part of the movement. They want to see people like them, and then see those familiar faces that they've always seen on Netflix, Amazon, and co. And there's a sense of pride there. Oh yeah, this is our thing, but it's your thing. I don't know if I'm making sense. I think
Certainly, certainly.
it's just taking our product and then making it a lifestyle that people can actually embody, and then play our own big brother role in this. It didn't just start with when Monsters come out. I have another film, Mountain Man. Mountain Man is set in Tanzania, set on the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro, right? So that's another co-production, because it will have actors from there, actors from here, actors from South Africa and Ghana and stuff. So we start, you start seeing Nigerian films. Hollywood films don't have a problem coming to Senegal to shoot, coming to Nigeria to shoot, coming to South Africa to shoot. Where they go, where the story goes, where the story takes them. Lawrence of Arabia and stuff like that. So it's, yeah, we come here, we make the stories. If we need to use the local talent, pair them with, yeah, Beast of No Nation, things like that. So that's how, when you begin to foster these co-productions, you're able to take our talents here and expose them to those industries there. So have you ever wondered why I say export quality? Nollywood should be export quality, right? So how many directors have we exported from Nollywood? Not the ones that came in, that have already established their careers in the UK, in the US, and then came back. How many have we exported from Nigeria, working in the UK, making films in the UK, in the US, and all that? But they're Nigerian based, but we export them. Go there, make your films, come back. How many actors are we exporting? You turn on your regular Hollywood film, and then you say, "Oh yeah. That's our Nigerian superstar in this one, doing well." We saw Olu Jacobs in a Hollywood production. We were proud and all that. So those things used to happen back then, but now why isn't it happening? So we must see this is an export. Nollywood is an export. We must start thinking about it like that, an export. Yeah, that's why I'm doing co-productions like When the Monsters Come Out, Mountain Man, and some other co-productions. I'm very interested in the Chinese co-production thing and stuff. So that's how I like to think. I like to think like a madman. And you can imagine how miserable that makes me. It's you think it's all good and dandy. It's not. It makes me very miserable, because a lot of people doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, it happens. It happens because some people want the status quo to remain. Yeah, and they don't want it, because they want different things. They're not saying, you know. Let me not even go into that one. Yeah, I'll take other questions.
Okay. I have a question here from Nii, who is asking, how best can one approach the source of real Nigerian stories for the rights to translate them into screenplays, and how easy is this?
Chineke, thank you for asking that question. It's a Herculean task. Like, I remember when I was filming Ofala, so I sat down with when I was interviewing His Royal Majesty Igwe Nnemeka Achebe, Abogidi, the Obi of Onisha. I was like, I had to, see, this is, things fall apart. Some of these stories, if you can use some connect to get to the family, to get this, it's not easy. Then I remember I went online. There was this famous, I'd mentioned the name of that book here, but I'm not going to mention it again now. I said I want to get the adaptation rights to make this novel into a film. It was published in the 40s, right? And I had to look, first of all, find out who had the rights. I found the publishers in the UK, I sent them emails. Nobody answered me. I was in London. I said, let me go and track these people and stuff. Nights catch me for road, you know. So it's been crazy, and I think it's almost a year now. I've not even gotten a reply to the email, you know. So because the publishers own the rights to this particular book, but it's Nigerian, quintessentially Nigerian. So I don't know what I go do. So it's not easy, but I can still tell you that it's not difficult either, because there are some Nigerian. I'm sure you've heard of some productions in the works, like Secret Lives of Baba Shagi's Wives. Um, um, we did Leshoba. Moa Budu, she's one of the most resilient women in the film industry. She is an absolute visionary, right? She worked on that thing. She pushed that thing for 10 years before that film was made, from when the rights were, the adaptation rights were sorted out, and when it was made. So it's not difficult, it's not easy. But remember what I said, if you're crazy enough to want to do it, you're obsessed about it, you get it done.
Okay, great. Now, you have to your name a collection of poetry, Enigma, Beyond the Poet.
Yes.
And, well, I was struck by the words in one of the poems, I'm leaving you because I love you. There's a stanza there that struck me, which goes, I must walk away from you, not because I detest you, but because I must not hurt you. I'm a badly written fiction. The hero here is not the good guy. My love stories never end well. There's no humor in my character. I do not play along because I love to, but because I have to. I like them very much, so pardon me that I read it out like that. But anyway, what that led me to is a question that film is referred to sometimes as being poetic. The works of some people, they say, oh, his work is pure poetry as a film. And we have the subgenre of film that is called the poetry film. Now, you have the background of a poet. Would you say that this flows into your filmmaking? What is there an impact as from, because you said earlier that you're able to see, to really see the things, but now also, does that also lead as to the aspect of being poetic in your filmmaking because of this influence of poetry?
I'm not sure. I'm conflicted. So I have this friend, this new friend I made, Babatunde Abalowo. I tease him all the time. I say, you're the intellectual filmmaker. All these intellectual filmmakers, this is making art house films and stuff like that. Give us commercial films. I want John Wick. I want senseless action and stuff like that. Yeah, but at the same time, I can't deny the fact that my background in poetry must have influenced the way I see films, because I think some of my shots, I try to approach some of my shots from a poetic angle, and then if I've created any visual poetry, it will be, I would look at films like projects like Nightfall in projects like Lagos in Motion, and I think Nightfall in Lagos actually has some poetry to it. At least the opening sequence for Nightfall in Lagos was the poetry, A Beautiful Girl in the Middle of the Night, that we shot. So it was actually, the entire documentary was inspired by that poem, A Beautiful Girl in the Middle of the Night. Then Lagos in Motion was filmed during the pandemic, when we were just recovering and Lagos was coming back online. And there were no words. It was just pictures, but you could see the poetry in, from the reconstruction happening, the rebuilding, the Lagos getting back in motion, the downfalls, the this and stuff. So yes, of course, most times, yes, I look at pieces of my composition. As a cinematographer, I think I find a little way to express, some poetry. Sometimes I think it bleeds into it, but I don't necessarily say that my films are poetic. But I think that bleeding heart of a poet sometimes bleeds into it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah. sometimes there's that contradiction of, you know, the personal conflict you're feeling at that moment directs, because once you have that eye, it's the way you see things, and you see things the way you feel things, and it might not make sense to somebody else, but in that moment, this is how you're visualizing this thing, because this is how you're feeling about this other thing. And yeah, it's a love-hate relationship.
I can imagine. Thank you. Now, there's a question here from Rookie, who is asking, the Nigerian audience seems to have specific interests when it comes to the kinds of films that they want to see. How do you determine that your creation/project will make the impact you envisage before going into production?
See, that's so this is where we've had this interesting conversation. Kenneth Gang and I, we've had this conversation. Kenneth, I think the last time was Kenneth, Babatunde, and myself or something. We were talking about this. So I said to myself, as a filmmaker, Babatunde does not agree with me, though. I say, as a filmmaker, you have to, before you make a film, you have to honestly ask yourself this question. What type of film do I want to make? Now, if I make a film that everybody hates, not everybody hates, sorry. If I make a film that critics hate, like all the critics, all the authorities in film absolutely hate it. They review it poorly, but you make all the money in the world. Like a box office success. It's a commercial success. You know, you break even like by 10 times or whatever. You do Marvel Endgame numbers and all that. Would you be happy? Would you be fine with yourself? Like your colleagues, your peers, the critics, they hate the film, but the audiences like it and they've rewarded you with money. You've made the commercial success. Would you be happy? Now, conversely, on the other side, do you want to make a film that all the critics will love? You win all the awards in all the festivals, get nominated for an Oscar, win an Oscar even, but you're not profitable. You go to the cinemas are like, audiences are coming out of the cinemas and asking for refunds. It happened with the artist. No, let's be real. The artist won about 5 or 6 Academy Awards when it came out. Remember the silent film, the black and white silent film. And then, but audiences went to the cinema and they were like, after 5 minutes, they come out and said there's no volume, there's no audio in the film. Say, but it's a silent film. Say, we didn't know that silent films didn't. Like, what are refund? You know, there's so many critically acclaimed films that were commercial flops. I've explored this subject before. You know, it will shock you. Google it. Critically acclaimed films that were box office flops. Like, they won all the awards and all that. Recently, Nigerian cinemas, they would disgrace you. Recently, there was a Nigerian film that's made waves everywhere, but it went to the box office and returned with less than 4 million naira. What kind of insult is that? Do you understand? But does that make it a bad film? No. You know, then there are films that critics say, oh, this is a terrible film, but the film is cashing out. You know, you've heard what Martin Scorsese said about, Marvel movies and stuff like that, being theme park and amusement and all that. They cash out their $1 billion everywhere. You know, so ask yourself, I just say, be honest. Some people will say, no, but you can make the two. I say, yes. Remember, the two happening is a gift. It's a gift that you don't bargain for. So it's either you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to make, to the best of my ability, I'm going to make a film, but I want it to be commercially successful. I'll do my best, and I don't care what the critics say, as long as I'm able to return funds for my investors and the audiences enjoy themselves, I'm fine. I don't care about the critics. Good. Now, or you say, no, I want the respect. I want people to look at me and salute, the critics, to say, oh, he's the best filmmaker in the world out of Nigeria. I want them to always kiss my backside every time and stuff. But I'm not getting any money. me and my investors will keep fighting, and every day, voila, I can live with that. Fine. I prefer an Oscar nomination or an Oscar award to making my money back. Make that decision. Then the results will be that the two might happen to you. It might be critically acclaimed and commercially successful at the same time. But I'm of the opinion that you have to set out to do one to the best of your ability. I'm not saying if you want to make a commercially successful film, you now make a rubbish film. Because that's the only way it can now become critically acclaimed, because you made it well. I'm not saying you want to make a critically acclaimed film and you don't take your audiences into consideration. That's the only way it's going to be critically acclaimed and commercially successful. Look at films like Apocalypto. Look at films like Passion of the Christ. You know, Passion of the Christ was critically acclaimed and a huge box office success.
Yes.
You know, so it happens. But you have to be sincere and tell yourself, okay, who am I making this film for? Am I making it for the audiences that people think these are the dumb ones, dumb audiences? Remember, if you have 100 people that are going to see a film, 90 of them are the dumb ones, the audiences, the ones that make this thing, the ones that we refer to as dumb. There are 90 of them. They just want to be entertained. They just want to, they don't know anything about film culture, film theory. They just want to be entertained. Then there's 10 on this side. Those ones, they don't, the only time they buy a ticket to go see the film is so they can review it from a scholastic point of view, from a scholastic perspective, academic perspective. They're the critics, you know. So now you have 100. Who do you want to impress? For some people, for some projects, this 10, they make you like, I say, oh no, I want to impress this 10. If I impress this 10, then I can influence the other 90. Right? But it's a trap. Oh, be careful. So choose. Who do you want to? Do you want to go with the crowd, or do you want to go with the intelligent people? That's it. But me, I think let's not be snobbish. Make films for your audiences. Let them want to have a good time. Think of yourself. Ask yourself, will I see this film that I've made? Do I like it? You can't make a film for everybody. It's impossible. Not everybody's going to like your film. You know, so just if Chinua Achebe was thinking about who would read Things Fall Apart, he wouldn't have
Really
written
good.
it. You know, just write your thing. You know, he would have been saying, the white people won't like it too. They're saying we're killing white people. Make your story as authentic as you can.
Okay, our time is just about up, but let me take just one last question. In line with what you just said, just a bit of advice here, because I see that you have also, I mean, while you were in Trinidad and Tobago, you gave a course on the business of filmmaking. So just as a final word, what kind of advice would you give to a young person who is entering the film industry in terms of seeing film as a business? You've said quite a few things already, but any final words on that?
Oh, film as a business. Yes, you start with production politics first and understand that no matter how intelligent you want to be, no matter how artistic you want to be, you will stifle the industry. The industry will not grow. When you don't return money to your investors, when your films don't make a profit, there's no more money to put back in the film to make other films. So you have to approach it as a business, and approach it like a business, not as crayfish. So we look at it like crayfish business. We buy and we sell. No, film is intellectual property. Is the first or second most valuable property in the world. It's something you can pass on to your assigns and heirs and children, grandchildren. It ends in perpetuity. So when you're thinking about your revenue, your distribution model, understand that you have over 100 years to make money from this film. Do you understand? So you have to, with this in mind, you have to understand what's the immediate needs for this film right now. Okay, to recoup this investment, if we do the first window, release, we'll do theatrical, we generate this, we offset this, we'll do this. But I'm thinking long term. So that's why I said, be careful where your money comes from. If you take money from somebody who is a capitalist, I just want my money, sharp, 1 year, I'm done. 6 months, you rush the process. And then if somebody comes to that person and says, this film, I want it exclusive, I want to take it exclusive outright for which is, you think it doesn't make sense, but people do it. And they'll sell it. And make their profits 5%, 10%, 20%. As long as they see small profit, that film is gone. They relinquish control. So your legacy, whatever you don't even understand it. But if you're like, okay, we want to be able to look at film as something that ends in perpetuity. So we want to break it down. We want to take the first 2 years to create the product. Go through proper post-production, do the festival rounds, generate some buzz for it, right? Then instead of us going straight to one streamer and selling off this license for 10 years or 20 years, we can license for we can do by territory. We can license in different territories, exclusive for the first year in all these territories, and just get pre-sales or whatever we can get from these territories. It's not going to return the entire budget to us immediately. But by the second year, when we now start doing non-exclusive deals, selling non-exclusive deals, we can cover more markets. We can generate more. Because if you're licensing for $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 to 100 platforms in a year, that's some serious coin. But your strategy will determine how you're going to do that. Do you understand? So, and right now, we don't have a structure. That one is the one that is killing us, because we've messed up the business structure of film in Nigeria. So we're just surviving. We're just in survival mode because everybody's just trying to survive. So the people that are setting standards and trends and structure for the business are structures that are based on their own personal understanding and preferences. So let's say I'm influential now, I've made this film, and this is the deal I go to make with this person. That deal becomes a standard for them to deal with the other people coming.
Right.
But I made that deal just to suit me. So imagine that I said, now I've made this when the monsters come out. But I made when the monsters come out with money generated from product integration. So I'm not owing any investor or something. I'm not looking to recover. I just want to expose the brand in this thing. So I can afford not to focus on the financial remuneration. I can just sign one exclusive deal with a platform that will give it massive distance so that I can raise funds to do the sequel. That will now determine whether I take 500K US dollars or take 50K US dollars. Now I take 50K US dollars instead of 500K because I want it out sharp. Then that becomes the standard. That streamer or that platform will now say, this film, this product we acquired for this. So why are we going to acquire yours for?
Right.
So I've set standards based on my own individual personal preferences, and it has become a standard for the industry. And this is what has happened. A lot of people have set such standards that are now affecting independent filmmakers. Remember, people make films for different reasons.
Yes.
So I just want to be famous because their investments are unencumbered. They have angel investors, something. Well, my husband give me this money. This person give me my wife give me this money. This one, like, I just want to make films so I can brag in front of my friends that I'm a filmmaker, that I have access to these people. This is just a hobby for me. I don't have any other thing that gives me such fulfillment. They have different reasons. But then there are people who are depending, their livelihood depends on making films. The person's approach is going to be different from the person who just wants to make the film so they can brag to their friends that, oh, my film is on Netflix, my film is on Amazon. You think that I'm saying rubbish, but it's a thing.
No.
No matter how petty this thing is, there are people. I've read one email, I'm not going to say the name of who, that somebody wrote in there and said, I just want this film on your platform around so and so. I don't care about the money.
Oh.
I'm like, and this is one of the big platforms. This is what they don't care about the money. And I'm like, you never see anything. So imagine you now go to the same platform and you're now saying, oh, I've made this. So I don't have money to give you. These people don't need. So yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So as long as we don't have a structure, we don't have a collective. So rules are not made collectively. Nobody sits down to say, okay, this is the value of film. This is how we go into such negotiations. These are the benchmarks. Collectively, we don't make these decisions. We make them individually and set them as standards. So I go in now, how I negotiate with this person is what becomes the standard for other people coming. If you look at the history of recent history of platforms and stuff, you see that the way they were interacting with filmmakers 5-6 years ago in terms of deals have changed. It did not go up, it came down. The process changed because, of course, Nigerians, now we do ourselves. Because it's simple. You have different motivation. I'm very happy that Afrobeats now, you're hearing that, oh, this person is charging $2 million, $1 million to